Good evening. This is Bilbo from World of Harthron, your DM of old. And I'm coming to you talking about my last session. And really, what I'm going to discuss here, DM tips, is how to plan a large encounter using the CR rating um, through Monster Manual. And how did I convert, or how did I think of coming up with the CR and what would match up with this group and make it formidable for the group, and not understanding really what the group was going to do. So let me first off kind of back off and let's talk about the encounter first. So I built the encounter. What is called is the Orc Trade Blockade. So these orcs are part of the story of the Grimnox, the Orc warlord. And what I did is build a blockade between Sunterhold and the city of Anlin, as a kind of an adventure for the group. And now I didn't know if and when the group may do this encounter or not, but I made the encounter. And then after adding a new character in the group, Dom, the merchant from Mandai, it made it very easy for me to get a hook. And so what I did is had Dom's caravan that was heading to Sunderhold with goods to supply the dwarves with, got attacked by these orcs that are this blockade. Now, if this didn't happen, let's just say, for example, Dom never came about, or he didn't play the new player that joined Adam. If that didn't happen, my plan was still to get a request from the Dwarven King of Sunderhold at some time early on in the storyline here. Probably maybe with them traveling out 7 days or so, and a week, maybe 2 weeks would have gone by, and the king would have requested the group to return and to take care of this blockade that's blocking off trade between the dwarven city as well as the elven city, the port city. And so the hook probably would have came about, but this hook made great sense, and there was more at stake now, with Dom's half brother, blood brother, being captured by these orcs. So the party felt kind of obliged to that to help out Dom here. So it was a perfect hook. Didn't have to work at it, and the dwarves didn't even have to hire him. So no gold lost here. So let me kind of walk through the challenge ratings and determine the part of this part of the adventure. Um, and first off, let me just say this group is huge. And this group was huge before we added another 3 players. And now when I calculated out the challenge rating, I didn't include the 3 new players. I and a new NPC. Now I kind of had an idea the group was going to ask for additional cleric support, but I didn't use that in the calculation, because I didn't know if it was going to happen or not. And so when I calculated out the group, so let me just kind of tell you, the group as a whole averages 6th level. With at the time when I did this calculation, there were 9 members in the group. Now there are 17 members in this group. Crazy. It's just super big. But I made the encounter, the adventure, for characters being 6th level and 9 characters in mine. So let me kind of go through the setup and how this was. And you guys can go online and watch how this kind of played out. This is a battle. And my big thing about making this, and I actually said this in my last DM tips about running a large group, and I mentioned this, is that I wanted them to see how to deal with, detour this group, say, okay, we're going to fight 4 dozen orcs. Now, I want to make sure that the players know and the characters understand they can't take on an army of 10,000 orcs that Grimnox is gathering on some mountain. And so I kind of wanted to detour that there had to be another way to get to Grimnox besides, trying to fight through, a ton of orcs. So this is like the big battle we have, an epic battle. And from here on out, the scale on my part, as a DM in a sense encounter should be much smaller than this. But tough encounters. So let's start off with the orcs. I wanted a lot of them because, like I said, I wanted to make sure. The other things too is, in a sense, this is fantasy, but I also think about realism and in the sense of, what would an amount of orcs need to kind of hold this road. So I'm thinking about large caravans coming through, the Dwarven King sending his ram riders to bust through, or even the riders from the towers. Of course, now the tower riders are taken down by a new story arc that I created after I created this adventure. So I calculated out 48 orcs would be a good number of orcs to show the group that taking on an army of orcs later on would be a bad idea. But I also thought they could take down 48 orcs as well. So I thought, I didn't know how they were going to come about this. I never want to know their plans. It doesn't matter if I do. It's not going to change my storyline, or I'm not going to fluff around with the monsters and encounter. As I said, the majority of my encounters I have already set in place and ready for the group, unless it's something pure random that I do. But even my random encounters are planned encounters. And this whole adventure is built out. So this is here, and there's a couple more. I don't want to let the players know because a couple of my players do watch this. There's next steps, and those will come out after our next session in another week. Now, so I thought maybe they would lure out a dozen orcs or so, weaken the herd a little bit after attacking the blockade. I thought they might even scout the encampment and get information, get intel, and try to figure things out. Nope, I was wrong on all accounts. Didn't do any of that. Instead, they used Seeming Spell, which was great, fantastic idea, and rode right on up to the gates. And that's where it went crazy. Crazy battle. So now, let me talk about CRs and how I looked at the challenge rating of the creatures. First off, Monster Manual Orcs. There weren't going to be a challenge for the group. They're a half a CR for an orc. So even in the sense you go with your standard party of, Dungeons and Dragons, where they say, they've built the monster manual. Okay, 4 characters should be able to handle. So let's just say this: a party of 4 first level characters, they should be able to handle, I don't know, 2, 3, maybe 4 orcs, depending on how, as the DM, how you play it up. And so first off, right there. So what I did is I increased the hit points to 30, but then I kept all the rest of the stats the same. Armor class, the damage. They hit hard. That's the one thing about orcs, is even though the standard I think has them at 15 hit points, so I doubled that. But they hit hard, and I didn't change that because I wasn't in the sense, I'm not trying to kill the characters, I'm trying to play out a story here. But I wanted to be challenging on the group. Reflecting back now after we've done this, I think a better number of hit points would probably been 25. One, it was sped up combat more, so they would have taken some more orcs out with some of their hits, like right away in one round versus having to deal with an orc for 2, maybe 3 rounds, or even longer. So I'm still learning 5e combat, getting used to the rules, so trying to adjust there. Um, so I'm learning on that stuff, and so from here on, I'll know. Oh, okay, then let's, just make sure that I'm thinking that through a little bit. But learning the creatures, it's fine. It worked out fine the way I run things. So with that, I thought a good CR for the orcs with adding extra hit points would be a CR2. Maybe that's still a little too high. Maybe they should have been a CR1. But I'm conservative, so I go, okay, CR2. And if the group is fighting a dozen at the time, and I'm thinking the 9 characters, they shouldn't have any problem with fighting a 12 orcs at a time. Now, I didn't expect them, like I said, to fight all 48 at once. But it was fine, and the group also doubled in size. So I'm glad I kind of had the 48 orcs planned out because, who knows what would have happened. I could have made this not a blockade and just dealt with some serious heavy armored orcs or whatever, but it wouldn't make sense for what I'm trying to accomplish in this story. So I thought 4 dozen orcs. Then I made 4 really tough orcs in plate mail. And these 4 are really nasty. They're double hitters, so they attack twice in a round. And I still can't give out quite that much information on them because there's still 3 on the board. And I'm pretty sure the party's going to go fight after they get some information out of the orcs. And I won't give that away, kind of what's going on in the story. Just go back and watch the last episode. But just imagine these orcs, like the armored trolls in the Return of the King, busting through the gates of Gondor. I love that scene in the movie where it's just those trolls just come busting through, and Gandalf was shocked. And that'd be crazy to see some big old armored trolls come through the gates. A little water. And so there I made those CR2. And I definitely think that's the right CR for those. And then I also added a regular ogre, a CR2. Now he ended up not even being... Sorry, time to take the meds. I put in a regular ogre, and he was non-existent in the fight because when it broke out, Slosh took him out before the ogre could even act. And so that was for naught, and nothing happened there. Then I put in 2 shamans to support the group. I thought 1 shaman per 24 orcs was fair. I did beef up these shamans a little bit, so made them a CR3. And then now let me talk about the boss and some of the other surprises that I had for the group. First, the boss, Ogre, was named Yakil. Now I made him a CR4. So I beefed his hit points up, his attack and damage from a normal Ogre, as well as his armor class. But I think a CR4 was justified. I didn't give him 2 attacks because he hits hard. When he hits hard. And so I didn't want him to outshine the fighters in this group, but make it challenging enough where they're going to have to, deal with them. And it ended up that the main fighters didn't even deal with them. And so it's kind of good that I didn't make them stronger than I did. Because I assumed 1 or 2 of the fighters would be taking him on at some point, and it wasn't the case at all. And it ended up being Carlane, an NPC ranger, took him out with a crossbow bolt from afar, and then was finished off by the spell-speared guardian. Another great thing done is by a player, and this is one of the good things, and I'll talk about the other one here shortly, is when Yakil went down, their whole thought, the group wanted to keep him alive to get information out of him. So the one of the dwarven clerics, one of the new players, Grungy is a character's name. This dwarf went up and bound the wounds quickly of this ogre to stabilize him, just so he wouldn't die. But a cleric, this cleric in our group, cast Spirit Guardian, and that basically got Yakil in that Spirit Guardian, because I gave him two of these big ogres within that 15-foot radius, and the player was honest saying, hey, and told me, not the other players, which was really nice, because they shouldn't know, that he would be caught in that as well. And sure enough, yep, he was. And so it ended up killing him. But the group wasn't the wiser that it was happening, because of the Spirit Guardian was the thing was doing it. And it's chaos. I mean, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of things going on. So it's perfect. Hats off to the player, JD, that did that. And so he was gone. He was dead. And now for the other part, the other big surprise, the next big surprise. And the boss wasn't a surprise. It was kind of interesting that he went down the way he did. I thought he would be in a fight with, Garther or Flamezor or Slosh. Not even happened. So, oh well. I mean, that's just part of the game. It's always interesting to see how things play out. But one of the players, Seth, noticed from camera, watching on camera, is one of the players that Skypes in and plays. Noticed I was taking time between initiative turns, between one character and the next. And the great thing is he didn't use player knowledge or share with the other players that there might be somebody on the board that was invisible. And when I play, and I catch stuff like that all the time, but I keep quiet and make sure I play my character that didn't know what was going on, and he did the same thing, which is good. So hats off to him. Congratulations as he didn't do that. I was very proud that he didn't do that. And this, of course, was one of my surprises. And I also thought this could be the downfall of the group. So I created an Ogre Magi. But wait, Bilbo, there is no Ogre Magi in the Monster Manual. That's correct, but I love these things. So I created one. Not going to say much details about him because, one, he lived. And so this is why this is what I was thinking my process on the downfall of the group. I thought for sure Vega, Cass, Fumo, the spellcasters of the group, and probably Garther, the best fighter in the group, other than Slosh, who's an NPC, would all lose focus on the battle and chase this ogre all around the map and try to kill it. And this would have left the other part of the party of this group very vulnerable. I mean, a lot of these new players have new characters that are anywhere from second to fourth level. So it could have been pretty bad. And I'm pretty sure that the orcs would have pushed that one side of the flank again. And probably one or two characters might have went down, as well as some of these NPC barbarians. It could have been really bad. But, and sure enough, it was kind of going to go that way. Slosh and Vega were both going to make their way after this Ogre Magi. Vega turned both of them invisible, and the funny thing is they both ran into each other heading towards Ogre Magi. Both rolled a natural one on acrobatics checks, so they both fell on the ground, giving the Ogre Magi just enough time to disappear and get out of there. And now the group has to worry when he will pop back. And my group knows I play Ogre Magi usually very smart and cunning. So the group is going to be on the edge until they deal with this new enemy for some time. It should be some great role playing, and as they try to figure out where this ogre magi is going to strike them next, it should be fun. Or if maybe he doesn't ever strike again, but I'm going to keep them guessing on that one. Now for the finale, the peak of the encounter. Bimroth and his brother Rumroth appear on the board like birds of prey, like the Klingons do. Two red dragon brothers appear and attack Monty, the group's wyvern, in the air. Great scene. And they, both of the dragons almost kill Monty with their hot, fiery breath and their claws attacks and their bites attacks. It was nasty. And so sure enough, Monty tries to, fake death but does a horrible job of acting. He's never been in theater, and drops down to the group close by Vegas, so it's out of play for the most part. And this was a timed encounter, and so a timed encounter. Some DMs do this. I do it. I've never called it a timed encounter, but I've seen some other DMs on YouTube reference it that way, so I might as well call it that's what it is, because that's what I've done. I've done it for years, but I never call it a timed encounter. Just something that I was like, oh yeah, I should have something like this effect with sometimes a major encounter, and it's a timer. So depending on the situation of how I think rounds are going to go in combat, there might be a special surprise, or it might be a time limit. It could be a trap. It could be a bad guy down the hallway that's coming for the group. Any of those kind of situations where I want to put a timer in the sense of initiative when something else is going to show up. It could be bad for the group, and the group might have to deal with this. So in this case, I think I rolled 2d6 because I assumed combat, for this whole thing was going to probably take around a dozen rounds. Pretty close. We ended at round 10, and as you can see on the map, there's still some orcs left, except they're kind of at bay right now. More to come. Like I said, watch the video, and you'll see why, and then in 2 weeks, we'll see what happens. So this time encounter. So before the group even arrived at the Orc blockade, before I even knew how their plans, I didn't know the group's plans. I didn't know how high Monty would be flying, if anybody would be on Monty before the Orc encounter started. Really before the group left Center Hold, I already determined this. So I rolled 2d6, and the dragons could have showed up in round 2. Or even past where they did show up, which was round 7. And I didn't know what kind of spells they would have. A couple of these, those casters can cast see invisibility, but they didn't do that in time. And there was really no reason, but sometimes some of their SOPs, they'll do that. They'll cast see invisibility just so they might catch something. But hey, they're fighting orcs. They don't think 2 invisible dragons and an ogre magi is going to be here. And lo and behold, it was. And so it's kind of interesting. So, like I said, just random dice when the encounter is, when there's this bad thing is going to show up. It's cool for a DM to have something like that. With a late encounter, a big encounter, So I don't use it always, but it's a great trick to have in your bag as a DM if you really want to have something like this. And it can really change the whole plan and make something fun and exciting for the DM, knowing this is going to happen. And I mean, it's crazy. The players, it can strike the fear in the players too if something shows up that they didn't expect. And if it was showing up at round two, maybe they kill one of the dragons. Maybe they don't. Maybe the dragon kills the group, or dragons kill the group. Maybe they don't. This encounter wasn't planned to kill the group. This encounter was really to show them, well, one, to scare them, and introduce you to these two dragons that the group may have to deal with at some point here within this storyline of Grimnox, and so that was the thing. And the dragons weren't meant to die. I wasn't gonna try to kill any party members. Could happen, or the dragons weren't. And I had a certain hit point threshold for the dragons, so if they did so much, if the characters did so much damage to these dragons, my plan was they would fly away, flee. So that's what the encounter was designed for. Did I count that part of the CR? Yes, I did. Understanding, yep, if they did get really engaged in combat, I knew when they would fly off. And now that and it ended up completely different. I mean, the seeming spell was so perfect because the dragons are flying in from a distance, seeing, hear these orcs fighting other orcs, and that's not what Grimnox wants at all. He doesn't want the orcs fighting each other. They need to, form together as one to take on the dwarves of Sunderhold. So the dragon pops up, it demands them to stop fighting. The players are smart there and do. And now, of course, the dragons take down Monty, and they're actually going to Bimroth was actually going to take Monty with as basically as dinner and for a snack or whatever. But the group made some great rolls, and that's what Vega's good at doing. Vega's great at talking her way out of situations. That's what that character is built on, and befriends a lot of people, and hence why this group is so large. Is her doing, and so it worked perfect. Dragons are like, okay, actually he's told the group that they're now in charge here, and rustle up the humans that were helping these orcs, this orc group that arrived, rustle them up, put them back in the wagons as prisoners, and the dragons left to the south towards Sunderhold in the mountains. So yeah, and also thank goodness now the group has to kind of thank Ovkarl, the dwarven cleric, new NPC. He kept Monty alive not once but twice. While this dragon was gonna killed him and then killed him again, and so that's kind of where this all came from. So the encounter was baked into the group, being at 6th level with 9 characters, and no one died, and a couple people went down, and it was scary for the characters, and that's what I wanted to accomplish. Fumo got frozen. Luckily there was a couple clerics, the dwarven clerics were right there. One of the barbarians got frozen, same thing, so they took care of them. Flamezor went down. Mardor healed him up, he was right there, and then Cass turned him into King Kong, which was also probably a plus for him doing that, even though he went down. But it was a distraction for the dragons, and I rolled crazy with Bimroth. I 3 times I rolled that he got his breath weapon back in a row, and so that was pretty sick. And that's what basically put Flamezor back down, and Mardo had to bring him back on up. And so no one died. That definitely was not my case. I'm not trying to kill off the group. No total party kill or anything like that. It was basically to make this group strong and make the encounter strong, make them feel fearful of the dragons, fearful of the Overmagi, and to really kind of set in motion for the group to hunt down Grimnox and kill them, and not take on an army of 10,000 orcs. That won't work. So with that, hopefully some people kind of learned in the sense that you just have to make adjustments on the CRs for larger groups than the four, and it comes with practice and time, and no one's perfect. As a dungeon master, game master, you're always learning, and I'm always learning. Always, I forget some rules. The great thing is my players are right here too. They've read the books. They can remind me of, oh yeah, that's not how this is done in 5th edition versus 3.5. As I said, we just converted in June to 5th edition, and before that we played 3.5 since the beginning of 3.5. And so it's still a transition for me as a DM. Really where I'm focusing more on is the story, creating the encounters, the NPCs to have fun for the group. And so, like I said, hopefully this helps some new DMs in the sense if they're dealing with a group larger than 4 players. Yeah, just take the CR of what's there, and depending if you want to add more of the CR to the group, depending on how big your group is. If you have 4 players, well, then you can kind of really trust the monster manual. I really think that's a safe bet. If you have 6 players, 6 characters in the group, okay, just do times and a half, 1.5 times of what that CR. If you don't want more encounters, you don't want it bogged down in combat, just increase the hit points of the creatures. I would never increase the damage unless you got some guys in your group that are just meat shields themselves. And this group has them with Slosh, Flamethorn, and Garthur. Those 3 have a lot of hit points. But you also have to worry and take into account, what if one of those big guys are all of a sudden in front of your mage? Well, if that happens, mage is probably going to die. And you don't want that as a DM. You don't want your players to have that happen. With that being said, will I kill a character? Absolutely. If it goes down, it's the dice, and that's how the game goes. Hopefully they have clerical support. Hopefully they can get to you in time. In this case, there was no issues. It got to everybody. They used a lot of resources. A lot of their spells were used in this battle, which is great. That's what you want. You want to challenge the group. You don't want to make it too easy, and you don't want to make it too hard to where all of a sudden you have a total party kill. And I can tell you, I haven't had one of those in years, other than when players kind of do it to the group themselves. But as a DM, I haven't done a total party kill in years. So, and that's hopefully my plan to keep going. Make it challenging enough, make it fearful enough for the group. If a character dies, a character dies. Do I like that? No. Do I want it? No. But it can happen. And so I guess I'm going to sign out here for tonight. Remember, have fun playing D&D. If you're new to DMing, just remember, no one's perfect. It takes years. I've been doing this for almost 40 years now of DMing, and I'm still learning. I'm learning a ton of stuff online with guys that are doing different things. I'm seeing things or hearing people doing stuff that I've done for years that's new to them, and vice versa. Where I haven't thought, oh, that's something new. Or like I said, the timer thing. Some DMs out there call that the timer, and I never had a name for it. Now I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I do that all the time. Just never had a name for it. Never needed to have a name, but now doing online stuff kind of makes sense. So with that, I'm going to sign out for the night. This is Bilbo tips, your DM tips, and remember, it's cool to be a geek. Pass it on. Good night.